Are timeouts a part of your parenting toolkit? If so, you may be doing them all wrong. Today, we're going to talk about 3 mistakes parents make in terms of timeouts and how to do them in a more effective way. Hi, I'm TeresaElling. I've been a parenting coach for over 20 years, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Just all of the ideas and tools that we have as parents. And the thing is, you can have a tool and still not use it correctly. And that is often the case with timeouts. So, 3 things that you may be doing wrong. Number 1, you use timeouts too often and in a selfish way. When you don't know what to do as a parent, go to timeout. When you're frustrated and mad, go to timeout. When your kid's driving you crazy, go to timeout. And there's really no intention behind it. Number 2, you don't train your children what a timeout is for and how you expect them to respond when you tell them to go to timeout. Because of that, timeouts themselves can be a battle. Either your child won't go at all, or they go screaming and kicking, or they just have a really bad attitude. And now you have a second problem from whatever the original thing was that you sent them to timeout in the first place. Number 3 is there is no follow-up. I see this so often. A parent sends their kid to timeout and then the timer goes off, or they say, "Okay, Mom, am I done?" "Yeah, you're done, you can get up." And that's it. There's no discussion. There's no follow-up. This almost makes timeout more like a punishment than part of a discipleship program, which encompasses so many things: grace and love and boundaries and consequences. Just so many things that go into play rather than simply punishing your child when they've done something wrong. So let's talk about solutions. The first one, we use them too often. We have a negative connotation to timeout, and we use them when we don't know what else to do in parenting, simply to get the kids out of our way so they don't bother us anymore. The solution to this really is multifaceted. It probably means you need to work on your connection. You need to work on training, and you need to work on your follow-up or your consistency. I really suggest that you take a look at the other playlists I have on training and begin to incorporate these ideas into your parenting. When you begin to slowly address each of these issues, this will help you achieve a more well-rounded approach to parenting, not one-sided or one trick, one theory. I wish parenting was that simple. It just isn't. So there's a lot of factors, but each step makes a difference. Okay, how do you change the fact that your kid has a bad attitude every time you send them to timeout? There's a few reasons for this. There may be already a lot of negative connotations around a timeout. Our children don't want to stop playing. They don't want to be removed from what they're doing. They don't want to be away from us. And so that can cause a lot of fear, a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety, anger. And we need to conquer this by training ahead of time. Now, if timeouts have had a bad rap in your home, I suggest you come up with a new name. My daughter Joanna uses the thoughtful spot from Pooh Bear. I love that. Whether it's a quiet time, although if you do quiet time with your children, as in a quiet playtime, there has to be something to distinguish the two. Use whatever makes sense for your kids and give it a new name. And with that new name, it's going to have new parameters. Now, while you can have a specific spot in your home, a specific chair, a spot on the couch, I think it's best that they are trained to go and sit wherever you ask of them, because you can use this anywhere. I also like to make sure that the kids are not around anyone else, but they also aren't far away. And I don't think timeouts should be in their bedroom or where they have any toys or things that would distract them. Now, my favorite spot was our master bedroom, and that's because it was downstairs right off the kitchen and living room, and all the other bedrooms were upstairs. You don't want your child to have to go upstairs or downstairs and be that far away where you can't really keep an eye on them. Also, putting them in a chair right next to 3 siblings isn't going to do the trick either. The key to training is that you have to begin training sessions apart from any real life issues that are going on. So don't wait until your child has not listened and then decide you're going to teach them how to do a timeout. That's the worst time. They're already emotional. They are not going to listen. So you do this at a completely different time. Maybe you begin to talk it up for a couple of days before without implementing anything yet. So maybe before bed, you're going to talk about it. And maybe you're going to start with explaining. I think when we've been doing timeouts, it hasn't gone very well. How do you think we could do them differently? I always encourage parents to bring their kids in on the process whenever possible. At least be willing to hear their hearts. Be willing to listen to whatever they have to say. If their suggestion really isn't viable, then that's okay, but listen. So maybe they have some ideas on going into a little den that's apart from the rest of the room, or maybe they would go and sit on your bed. Next, talk to your kids about what should we call this? Do we want to call it the calm down chair, or the thinking room, or the thoughtful spot? Come up with something creative. Let your kids be a part of that. Now you're going to address the attitude that you expect when they are being sent to their thoughtful spot. You need to make it very clear. When mom says, Jimmy, you need to go to your thoughtful spot, I expect you to answer and say, yes, mom, and go there immediately and wait for me. Now, it's probably important that when you do that, you set a timer so you don't forget. Have you ever forgotten your kid in timeout? Comment below if you have. I've done it several times, and it's not good training because eventually they come out, which they shouldn't, but it's because you forgot them. So yeah, we really want to try to avoid that. I'm going to set a timer at that point, and then I will come back in to check on you, and if you're ready, we can sit and talk about whatever's going on. You want to be able to have your children repeat this back to you. So, okay, Jimmy, if I say, please go to your thoughtful spot, what are you going to do? And you want them to be able to repeat the steps back to you. I'm going to verbally answer, yes, mom. I'm going to have a good attitude, and I'm going to go immediately to that space. Now, I'm sure I will get some comments about the use of rewards in training, but I don't know a parent that doesn't use them. And they might think they don't use them, whether it's in the form of bribes or even for potty training. Most parents use something to motivate their child. So let's talk about potty training for a minute. Do you give your 10-year-old an M&M every time they go potty? I don't think so. Most parents understand the concept of a reward for training that ends when the child is trained. And that's the same way that you're going to use it here. The key is you want to make this fun. It is a huge mistake to think that discipleship, consequences, training has to be miserable for your child and you. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be horribly painful for it to work. You can make this fun. So set something up where, hey, we're going to practice every day. So this first week, right before we sit down to lunch, right before we sit down to dinner, right before bed, maybe pick 2 or 3 times, we're going to practice. And it's simply practice. You're not in trouble. Set up your chart so that each time you practice, they're getting a check in the box or a sticker or whatever. And at the end of the week, there is some kind of reward. You're all going to go to the park together. You're going to have a movie night. You're going to make ice cream. Whatever it is, do something that is special to your family that involves you hanging out with them, a board game night, whatever it is. So in this next phase, you're not going to say, hey guys, it's time to practice going to your thoughtful spot. Let's take a minute and do that right now. You're not going to give them any heads up. You're just going to say, guys, you're going to have to remember you're probably not in trouble. But either way, I'm going to ask you just out of the blue at any time of day. And when mom says, I'd like you to go to your thoughtful spot, please, you'll say, yes, mom, and you'll go and you'll stay there until I come to get you. Now, the key is, of course, you're making it fun, and you also want to praise their efforts. Anything they're doing to try again, to do the best that they can, again, depending on the age. If you're working with a 3-year-old, there's going to be lots of hugs and high fives and great job, all of that. Make the training and the rewards applicable to their age. If you are having a really difficult time with your kids, a lot of defiance, yelling, refusing to obey, or younger children, 2, 3, 4, then you can have an immediate reward in addition to a reward at the end of the week. And so that might be just like in potty training. Here you get an M&M or a Skittle or a sticker or whatever it is. So use what works for your family, but offer an immediate reward right after they have listened and obeyed. Now, once this training period is over, you're going to actually implement timeouts when your child is not listening to you, when they are getting so rowdy that they just need a minute to calm down, when they've hurt a sibling and they absolutely refuse to apologize. I don't make my children apologize, but life is not going to just go along like normal until they've recognized what they've done and they're willing to apologize in their own time. Thoughtful Spot is great for that. It's also great for what I call pre-lying. Now, this is when you catch your child about to tell a lie. Like they're halfway there, or you can tell by their posture, their tone of voice, they're not going to be honest with me right now, and you stop them. Just go, stop for just a minute. I want you to go and just really think about this, because telling the truth to mom is more important than anything else. And I know sometimes we don't want to tell the truth because we're afraid. You might be afraid I'm going to get mad at you, but I want you to always tell me the truth. So I'd like you to go to your Thoughtful Spot right now, and I'll check on you in a few minutes. Just doing that, just hitting the pause on your child's emotions. I don't know about you, but me as an adult, I have lied to people when I felt pressured in the moment and I was afraid. And nothing big, nothing, but little things were like, that wasn't the whole truth, but some fear rose up in me. Getting to pause and think about that and recognize, I don't lie. That's not in my character. I am not going to do that. Okay, what's going on right here? And thinking that through. We need to do that as adults. How much more do our children need that time to reflect? Then you can go back in and hopefully they will tell you the truth, which really leads in to correcting point 3, the follow-up. This is crucial. And there's a difference between having a conversation with your child and lecturing them or nagging them. For whatever reason, your child has gone to a Thoughtful Spot. They've gone to sit on your bed and wait for you. When you go to tell them their time is up, you're not done. This is really just the beginning. Now you want to hear their heart. How did they end up here? What's going on? Is it just a conflict within themselves? Are they struggling to be kind? Are they feeling really emotional about something? Or did they disobey you? Did they refuse to listen? Did they take a toy from a sibling? All of these things can now be addressed individually, and your child has a chance to figure out on their own what they did. And this is the greatest thing. Please do not go in and say, this is what you did. This is why you were here. Don't ever do that again. Okay, you can go. You are inviting your children into a conversation so that they can learn. They can learn about themselves and how to manage themselves in this crazy world. Your job is to help them with that. Now, if it was something where they deliberately disobeyed you, or they continued to be defiant, or they broke some of your family rules, then there may need to be a consequence. And that's when you're going to follow up with that. I'll probably repeat this a million times, and I should do a separate video on it, but please don't just dole out consequences to your child, especially if they are still emotional, because they can't handle that. It feels like heaping insult upon insult. Even though they're in the wrong, they have to be able to manage how they're feeling about all this. And when they don't even get a chance to recognize they're wrong and actually repent and feel sorry, and you're just throwing a consequence on them, it usually doesn't work the way we want it to. If they can get to a point of actually deciding with you what the consequence should be, or maybe it's already decided, if you break this family rule, this is the consequence. But then you can ask them, hey buddy, what's the consequence when you don't come when mom calls you? And let him tell you. Talk about it together. If any apologies need to be made, this is the time to do it. This is also a little check. So their timeout's over, you've talked about it, and they're not willing to give the toy back to their sibling. What do you do then? Well, that's when you say, you know what, Jimmy, I understand that, but you did take it without permission and you took it right out of their hands. And our family rule is we don't ever take things from people's hands. So I think you might need some more time to think about that. No problem. I'll come back in a few more minutes. And let them be. You're not angry. You are not yelling. You are not imposing consequences in your anger. You're giving them more time if that's what they need. Now remember, they are not in a space where they're on a phone. They don't have a screen. They don't have toys to play with. They're just sitting. I mean, make sure they're comfortable. They can lay on your bed. They can sit in a cozy chair. But they're not going to be doing anything else until they get the matter settled. I could go on, but I'll leave you with that. The 3 reasons why timeouts often don't work effectively and the ways to correct them. If you have not subscribed to my channel, would you consider doing that? It is completely free. You don't have to give any information. Just hit the button. And if you want to be notified when I have videos, then hit the notification bell. I would love to hear your thoughts about these 3 points about timeouts. Let me know what you think below. Thank you for joining me today on The Peaceful Home. I pray for wisdom and grace and love as you continue on your parenting journey.